A single star guided the placement of a temple 5,000 years ago. This video reveals 25 ancient structures aligned with specific star systems, a mystery that connects civilizations across the globe. By the end, you will see the night sky as a forgotten blueprint for our entire history. We will discover why a pyramid's shaft points to Orion's belt and how a serpent of shadow appears on a staircase only on the equinox. What drove cultures with no contact to build the same cosmic code into stone? The answers rewrite our past, suggesting a shared, celestial language long before written words. What does it mean that our oldest monuments are all pointing to the same stars? That discovery is the heart of a field called archaeoastronomy. It is not just about old stones or distant stars, but the profound connection between them. Think of it as a new kind of historical detective work, a blend of archaeology, anthropology, and astronomy. By studying the alignments of ancient sites, researchers can listen to the silent language of the sky as our ancestors heard it. For these cultures, the heavens were not a random spectacle. As scholar Anthony Aveni once described, the sky was a clock, a calendar woven into a divine narrative. It told them when to plant crops, when to hold ceremonies, and how to orient their most sacred spaces. To truly grasp the genius behind these alignments, we need to understand a few celestial mechanics. One is the heliacal rising, the first dawn appearance of a star after a period of invisibility. This single event could mark a new year or a season of great importance. Another is the solstitial alignment, where a structure is oriented to capture the sunrise on the longest or shortest day of the year, a powerful symbol of rebirth or transition. But perhaps the most crucial concept is the precession of the equinoxes. This is the slow, 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis. It means the star patterns we see today are not the same as those witnessed 5 millennia ago. The North Star changes, entire constellations drift over centuries. This is why that astronomers' software was so vital. It allowed them to rewind the sky to the exact moment a temple was built, revealing which star truly mattered. This foundational knowledge transforms a simple pile of rocks into a sophisticated observatory. It reveals an intellectual and spiritual sophistication that rivals our own, a deep desire to anchor human life to the grand cycles of the cosmos. With this lens, we can begin our global tour, seeing each monument not as an isolated ruin, but as a deliberate page from a universal celestial blueprint. The desert sands of Giza hold a secret written in starlight. Around 2,500 years before the Common Era, when the Great Pyramids were new, the night sky presented a map. Hanging in the southern expanse, the 3 brilliant stars of Orion's belt burned with a familiar pattern. Below them, the pyramids of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure rested upon the plateau in a nearly identical arrangement. This is no fleeting coincidence, but the core of a compelling idea known as the Orion correlation theory. Popularized by researcher Robert Bovell, the theory proposes that the entire Giza complex is a terrestrial mirror of the celestial Orion region. Each massive tomb corresponds to a specific star. Khufu's pyramid aligns with the star Alnitak, Khafre's with Alnilam, and Menkaure's with Mintaka. Yet Bovell's insight went even further. He suggested the layout matches the sky not from the time of the pyramid's construction, but from a much more ancient epoch, 10,500 years before the Common Era, a date some associate with a legendary golden age. The connection deepens within the Great Pyramid itself. From the heart of the structure, the so-called King's Chamber, a narrow southern shaft was constructed at a precise angle. Modern astronomical analysis shows that around 2500 BCE, this shaft would have pointed directly toward the center of Orion's belt. For the ancient Egyptians, the constellation Orion was not just a group of stars, it was the celestial embodiment of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and rebirth. This alignment transforms a stone passageway into a spiritual conduit. It suggests a profound belief that the pharaoh's journey did not end within the tomb, but was directed outward, his soul traveling along this star-pointed path to merge with the eternal and divine. Here, architecture becomes astronomy, and astronomy becomes a theology of immortality, a belief in a cosmic homecoming that we will find echoed in stone across the world. While the pyramids mirrored Orion, another guardian on the Giza plateau kept its eyes fixed on a different point in the heavens. The great Sphinx, that colossal statue with the body of a lion and the face of a pharaoh, gazes resolutely eastward. Every year, as dawn breaks on the spring equinox, a spectacular event unfolds. The sun rises directly between the monument's massive stone paws, bathing its ancient form in light. This solar alignment is powerful, but many researchers believe it points to a far more profound and ancient secret written in the stars. The Sphinx's leonine body is the key to a theory that pushes its origins back into deep, almost mythical time. Some astronomers and archaeologists propose the Sphinx was not originally built to represent a pharaoh at all, but rather the constellation Leo, the lion. They point to a period known as the Age of Leo, which occurred around 10,500 years before the Common Era. During this epoch, due to the slow wobble of Earth's axis we call precession, the constellation Leo would have risen directly in the east on the spring equinox, perfectly matching the Sphinx's orientation. In this view, the monument becomes a terrestrial marker for a celestial event, a stone lion forever guarding the horizon for the return of the sun into its zodiacal home. The connection deepens with a specific star. Regulus, the brightest star in Leo, often called the lion's heart, held immense significance in many ancient traditions. Its heliacal rising, its first dawn appearance after a period of invisibility, would have been a moment of great ceremonial importance. Could the Sphinx have been positioned so that on a specific morning millennia ago, it would watch Regulus crest the horizon directly ahead? This Sphinx-Leo correlation introduces a staggering idea that some monuments might encode not just annual cycles, but the grand 26,000-year clockwork of precessional ages. It suggests our ancestors may have been tracking time on a scale that challenges our understanding of their capabilities, building markers meant to speak across thousands of years. Whether one accepts this radical redating or not, the alignment compels us to ask what monumental patience or what received knowledge could inspire a culture to build for an age not their own. This theme of encoding vast celestial time is a thread we will see woven into sacred sites across the globe. Across the sea, on the windswept Salisbury Plain, another civilization turned its gaze upward to master the passage of time. Long before the first stone was raised, the people of Neolithic Britain understood the sun's journey was the very rhythm of life. They built Stonehenge not as a random collection of boulders, but as a colossal, open-air clock and calendar, its silent language written in sunlight and shadow. At dawn on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, a spectacle unfolds that has drawn people for millennia. As the sun crests the horizon, its first rays shine directly over a solitary, weathered stone known as the heel stone. That beam of light travels perfectly through the center of the monument's great Sarsen circle, illuminating the heart of the altar stone. This alignment is no accident. It is the monument's primary axis, a deliberate line drawn from the heart of Stonehenge to the point of the solstice sunrise. But the builder's vision was even more complete. The same central axis, if you look in the opposite direction, points precisely to where the sun sets on the winter solstice, the shortest day. In one elegant design, they captured the sun's two extreme turning points, the boundaries of the year itself. This was a society that depended on knowing when to plant, when to harvest, and when to gather for communal rites. Stonehenge provided that certainty, transforming the abstract movement of the heavens into a tangible, communal event witnessed by all. Yet the sun was only part of the story. Some of the monument's smaller bluestones and the unique shapes of certain trilithons, the giant three-stone arches, are thought to align with the moon's more complex 18.6-year cycle, known as the lunar standstill. There are even theories that specific pits around the site, called the Aubrey holes, could have been used to track star positions, creating a comprehensive celestial observatory. The sheer scale of the achievement is humbling. These builders moved multi-ton stones over vast distances without the wheel or metal tools, and they maintained this precise astronomical vision across generations, perhaps for over 1,000 years of construction. Without a written language, they encoded a deep understanding of cosmic order into the landscape, uniting their community with the dependable, majestic dance of the sky. This universal human impulse to mark celestial time, to anchor our fleeting lives to the grand cycles above, is the very thread that connects Stonehenge to the deserts of Egypt and to our next destination, where a temple was built not for the sun or a constellation, but for a single, brilliant star. Deep within a grassy mound in Ireland lies a chamber that waits in darkness for one brief moment each year. Newgrange is a passage tomb constructed over 5,000 years ago, making it older than Stonehenge and even the Great Pyramids of Giza. Its most astonishing feature is not its massive scale, but a small, precisely carved opening above its entrance known as the roof box. For 17 minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, and for a few days before and after, a narrow beam of sunlight travels directly through this roof box. It creeps slowly down the long, stone-lined passageway until it reaches the very heart of the central chamber, illuminating the ancient space with a golden light. The engineering required for this is staggering. The passage is perfectly aligned to an azimuth of about 138 degrees, corresponding to the sunrise at that specific latitude and time of year. A deviation of even a single degree would mean the light would never reach the inner chamber. This was not a hopeful accident. It was a meticulously planned and executed phenomenon, a feat of Neolithic genius that blended stone, sunlight, and celestial timing into a single, breathtaking event. For the farming communities who built it, the winter solstice was a time of profound significance. The days were at their shortest, the sun at its weakest, and the threat of permanent darkness and cold must have felt very real. In their cosmology, the sun penetrating the deepest, darkest chamber of the earth was a powerful symbol of rebirth. It represented the promise that light would return, that life would renew, and that the cycle of the seasons was eternal. Newgrange was far more than a resting place. It was a machine for generating hope, a physical manifestation of their deepest spiritual beliefs about death and regeneration. This intentional blurring of lines, where architecture becomes an astronomical instrument and an instrument becomes a theological statement, reveals a sophisticated, unified worldview. These early farmers saw no separation between the cycles of the sky, the rhythms of the earth, and the journey of the human spirit. They built a monument that spoke all those languages at once, a tradition of celestial integration that we find again with startling parallels, an entire ocean away in the ancient Americas. The desire to capture a moment of celestial magic in stone found spectacular expression far across the Atlantic. At the ancient Maya city of Chichen Itza, the pyramid known as El Castillo, or the Temple of Kukulkan, stands as a masterwork of astronomical theater. Its design is a mathematical and solar calendar made physical. Each of its 4 stairways has 91 steps, which, combined with the shared platform at the top, totals 365, one step for each day of the solar year. But the true genius of its alignment is revealed only twice annually, on the spring and autumn equinoxes. As the sun sets on those days, the northwest corner of the pyramid casts a series of triangular shadows down the balustrade of the northern staircase. These interlocking shadows connect with stone serpent heads at the base, creating the stunning illusion of a feathered serpent, the deity Kukulkan, slithering down from the heavens to earth. This is not a vague resemblance, but a precise, calculated effect achieved through meticulous geometry. The angle of the staircase, the placement of the corner, and the height of the structure were all engineered to intersect with the sun's path at that exact latitude and date. For the gathered populace, this was far more than a light show. It was a direct manifestation of divine power, a public spectacle that visually reinforced the ruler's connection to Kukulkan and, by extension, to the cosmic order itself. The Mayas' ability to orchestrate such an event stemmed from an extraordinarily advanced understanding of astronomy, meticulously recorded in their bark paper books called codices. They tracked the complex 584-day cycle of Venus, which they associated with war, and could predict solar and lunar eclipses with remarkable accuracy. The Equinox Serpent served a dual purpose. It was a potent political tool and a vital agricultural marker, signaling the time to prepare the fields for the coming rains. Here, celestial alignment was woven seamlessly into the fabric of power, ritual, and survival, demonstrating a sophistication that viewed the sky not as a distant mystery, but as an interactive script for human life. This intricate dance of shadow and belief reveals a pattern where architecture becomes a clock, a calendar, and a conduit for the divine, a pattern we find echoing in a land where mountains themselves were carved into celestial maps. High in the cloud-shrouded Andes, a civilization built a city in the sky to converse with the sun. At the heart of Machu Picchu, on a sacred plaza carved from the mountaintop, rests a single piece of polished granite known as the Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun. This is not merely a sculpture, but a profound astronomical instrument. Its precisely angled planes and central pillar were carved so that at the exact moment of solar noon on the spring and autumn equinoxes, the stone casts no shadow whatsoever. It becomes a perfect, shadowless marker, a moment of pure equilibrium between light and stone. For the Inca, this was far more than a clever trick of geometry. The sun god Inti was the divine ancestor of the emperor and the source of all life, warmth, and order. The Intihuatana was a spiritual anchor, a device literally designed to hold the sun in place on its journey across the heavens, preventing it from wandering away and plunging their world into eternal darkness. This alignment was the centerpiece of Inti Raymi, the great festival of the sun held at the winter solstice, a ceremony of music, dance, and offerings to coax the sun back from its farthest point and ensure the renewal of the seasons. But the celestial vision of Machu Picchu extends far beyond this one stone. The entire city is a masterpiece of integrated sacred geography. Major structures are aligned with the cardinal directions, while windows and sightlines frame the rising of specific stars and the solstice sun. Perhaps most importantly, the layout is in constant dialogue with the Apus, the towering mountain spirits considered to be protective deities. The city itself is oriented towards sacred peaks like Huayna Picchu and the distant, glacier-capped summit of Salcante. This reveals a cosmology without separation. Astronomy was not a standalone science, and geography was not just terrain. They were interwoven threads of a living tapestry. The movement of celestial bodies, the immutable presence of the mountains, and the architectural genius of human hands were all part of one continuous, sacred order. The Inca did not just build structures aligned with the sky. They built a world where the sky, the earth, and the stone of their temples were in constant, harmonious conversation. This holistic vision of a cosmos mirrored in the landscape is a powerful echo of what we saw at Stonehenge and Newgrange, and it prepares us for an even more expansive idea where entire cities were laid out as maps of the heavens. The mountains of Peru gave way to a different kind of celestial canvas, one drawn not with peaks but with thousands of silent, standing stones. In the misty fields of Brittany, France, the Karnak alignments present a mystery on a staggering scale. Over 3,000 megaliths stretch for miles across the countryside, arranged in long, parallel rows that seem to march toward some forgotten purpose. This is not a single monument but a landscape transformed into an observatory, and its primary language may not be that of the sun but of the moon. For generations, the purpose of these stones baffled scholars. Were they a gathering place, a memorial, or perhaps a defensive structure? The key to unlocking their secret lay not in their individual forms, but in their collective alignment. Leading researchers, including the engineer Alexander Thom, conducted meticulous surveys of the site. Their work revealed a compelling pattern. The grandest of the stones, the massive fallen pillar known as the Grand Menhir Brisset, along with the primary axes of the Camarillo stone rows, appear to be oriented toward the extreme rising and setting points of the moon. This is no simple monthly tracking. The moon's journey is complex. Over a cycle of approximately 18.6 years, the points on the horizon where it rises and sets slowly migrate north and south, reaching a maximum extreme before swinging back. These endpoints are known as the major lunar standstills. The alignments at Karnak seem to target these very limits. Imagine the patience and sustained observation required to recognize this slow, 18-year dance in the sky, and then to permanently mark its boundaries with tons of granite. This suggests a society capable of long-term astronomical record-keeping, passing precise knowledge down through generations without a written word. But why? Why would Neolithic farmers commit such immense labor to chart the moon's most distant wanderings? The practical reasons are compelling. For coastal communities, the moon governs the tides. Predicting extreme high and low tides would have been crucial for fishing, gathering shellfish, and perhaps even for navigation. Ritual life, too, could have been governed by this longer rhythm, with ceremonies timed to the moon's standstills, moments of peak celestial power in their cosmology. On a deeper level, the moon has always been a symbol of cyclical change, intimately linked to ideas of growth, fertility, and the rhythm of life itself. Its monthly death and rebirth in the sky mirrored the cycles they saw in the natural world. By capturing its most extreme movements, the builders of Karnak may have been seeking to understand and perhaps influence the very pulse of existence. They were mapping time itself on a grand scale, using the moon's slow heartbeat to orient their world. This lunar precision adds a profound new layer to our understanding of ancient sky watching, moving beyond the solar year to a more nuanced, patient tracking of celestial time. It reveals a sophistication that listened to the quieter rhythms of the cosmos, a theme that leads us to a place where the entire night sky was mirrored directly on the earth. The lifeblood of Egypt flowed not from the earth but from the sky. Each year, the Nile River would swell, bursting its banks to deposit rich, black silt across the parched fields. This inundation was not merely beneficial. It was the absolute foundation of Egyptian civilization, dictating the agricultural calendar and the rhythm of existence itself. And this vital earthly event had a precise celestial herald, the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. Just before dawn in mid-July, Sirius would reappear after a 70-day period of invisibility, gleaming briefly on the eastern horizon. This moment, known as the going forth of Soptit, signaled the imminent arrival of the Nile's floodwaters. The synchronization was so reliable that the Egyptian calendar itself was built around it, with the new year commencing at this very conjunction of star and river. This profound connection between heaven, earth, and water was not just observed, it was architecturally enshrined within the most sacred complex in all of Egypt, the Temple of Amun-Re at Karnak. The temple's immense scale is breathtaking, a forest of colossal columns and towering pylons built over 2,000 years. But its true genius lies along a single, deliberate line, its main east-west axis. This axis was oriented with such precision that on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the rising sun would shine directly through the temple's entrance gates. Its light would travel unimpeded down the lengthy central corridor, through a series of progressively more sacred courtyards and halls, finally reaching the deepest, darkest inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies where the statue of the god Amun-Re resided. For one brilliant moment, divine sunlight would illuminate the divine image. This annual event was a masterpiece of sacred engineering. Crucially, the summer solstice sunlight spectacle coincided almost perfectly with the heliacal rising of Sirius. In the Egyptian mind, these were not separate phenomena but interconnected parts of a single cosmic mechanism. The star Soptit announced the flood, the sun at its peak strength warmed and blessed the land, and the life-giving waters followed. The temple alignment physically fused these events into a unified ritual experience. Within this architecture, astronomy became a tangible, participatory religion. The priests performing the solstice rite were not just honoring the sun god, they were actively participating in the renewal of the entire world. By correctly timing the ceremony with the celestial signs, they were ensuring the star would appear, the river would rise, and the fields would bear fruit. The temple axis was a conduit channeling celestial power directly into the heart of the state. This demonstrates a worldview where the practical and the spiritual were inseparable. Tracking Sirius was as crucial for survival as building granaries, and orienting a temple was as important as digging irrigation canals. The sky was the ultimate clock, the stars were its gears, and human ritual was the maintenance that kept the entire machine of civilization running smoothly. This deep integration of cosmic observation into the very fabric of daily life and state power reveals a sophistication that turns survival into ceremony, and ceremony into the engine of an empire. From the life-giving Nile, our journey now takes us to a far more austere landscape, where another culture used the stark desert sky to encode messages of harmony and order on a breathtaking scale. The desert holds memories of water. In a region of the Sahara so dry it seems lifeless, a discovery rewrites the earliest chapters of human astronomy. At a site called Nabta Playa, over 7,000 years ago, a culture of nomadic cattle herders did something extraordinary. They arranged massive stones into precise formations, creating what is now recognized as the world's oldest known astronomical observatory. This was not a grand city or a temple complex, but a ceremonial center built by people who moved with the seasons, and their legacy in stone shatters a long-held assumption. Sophisticated sky watching did not begin with the pyramids or with settled agricultural empires. It emerged much earlier among pastoralists under the vast, clear desert sky. The centerpiece of Nabta Playa is a stone circle, often called a calendar circle. It is a modest arrangement of upright slabs, but its design reveals a profound intent. At its heart, a pair of central stones aligns perfectly with the direction of the summer solstice sunrise. Other stones around the circle's perimeter are positioned to mark other solar events. But the true sophistication is revealed in a line of 6 megaliths that radiate outward from this circle. Researchers, using software to reconstruct the ancient sky, found that these stones align with the rising points of the 3 stars of Orion's belt and the brilliant star Sirius. This alignment dates to around 4,800 years before the Common Era, predating the Egyptian veneration of these same stars by thousands of years. What compelled these nomadic people to invest such effort in dragging and erecting multi-ton stones in this specific, remote basin? The answer is written in the landscape itself. Nabta Playa was not always a desert. During a wetter climatic period, it was a seasonal lake, a vital resource that filled with summer monsoon rains. The herds and the people who depended on them would gather here when water was present, Predicting the arrival of these life-giving rains was a matter of survival. The heliacal rising of Sirius, which in that epoch occurred just before the summer rains began, served as a celestial alarm clock. By marking its rise with a line of stone, these early astronomers created a reliable, perennial calendar. They could watch the stars, know when to expect the waters to return, and plan their migratory movements accordingly. This site represents a monumental leap in human thought. It shows that the drive to understand the cosmos is not a product of leisure or complex hierarchy, but a fundamental tool for resilience. For the people of The Pleiades, astronomy was not abstract philosophy, it was practical ecology. Their stone circle was a survival manual etched into the earth, a way of harmonizing their way of life with the dependable yet invisible cycles of the sky. It proves that the human mind, facing the challenge of an unpredictable environment, looked upward and found a pattern, a rhythm to trust. This deep, ancient bond between survival and the stars established a template, a way of thinking that would later blossom into the great monuments of Egypt and beyond. From this stark desert cradle of astronomy, our journey turns to a very different landscape, where an entire civilization chose to mirror the Milky Way itself in the layout of their sacred capital. The Mediterranean island of Malta holds temples older than time. Carved from Globigerina limestone over 5,000 years ago, the Mnajdra complex stands as a testament to a culture that left no written records, no grand cities, and no signs of large-scale conflict. What they left instead were monuments of breathtaking celestial precision, their entire world seemingly oriented toward the sky. Among these structures, the lower temple at Mnajdra performs a silent, annual miracle of light. Its main doorway is a masterpiece of Neolithic engineering, framed by massive stone slabs and oriented with exacting care. On the morning of the spring and autumn equinoxes, as the sun crests the horizon, a brilliant shaft of light pierces this entrance. It travels across the dark interior floor, a beam of pure gold, until it strikes a specific, decorated stone slab set against the far wall. For that moment, the central altar is bathed in light, marking the precise instant when day and night are perfectly balanced across the earth. This was no happy accident. The alignment required the builders to understand their latitude, the sun's path, and the subtle play of architecture and aperture. It speaks of generations of patient observation, of people who tracked the sun's journey with such intimacy that they could trap its equinox light in a stone chamber. The temple's design deepens the mystery. Curious porthole windows carved through thick walls may have served as sighting devices for observing other celestial bodies, perhaps the moon or specific stars. Altars and niches suggest spaces for ritual offerings, possibly tied to the cycles of planting and harvest that the equinoxes heralded. In the absence of written history, the architecture itself becomes the text. Here was a society that channeled its collective energy not into armies or palaces, but into the construction of these sacred observatories. Their entire social and spiritual life appears to have been organized around a harmonious relationship with celestial cycles and the fertility of the earth. The pure, ritualistic focus at Mnajdra offers a striking contrast. Unlike the pharaohs using the sun to cement political power or the Maya rulers manifesting a serpent god, the builders of Malta seemed driven by a different impulse, a communal desire to participate directly in the cosmic order, to ensure balance and abundance through correct ritual alignment. Their legacy is not one of conquest but of integration, a whisper from a forgotten time that reminds us humanity's first temples were not built to the glory of kings, but to the precise mechanics of the sky itself. This pursuit of cosmic harmony through architecture finds a startling parallel in a place where the builders took a far more mathematical and perhaps ominous approach to the stars. A dragon of stars coils around the northern celestial pole. While many cultures aligned with the sun or single stars, the builders of Angkor Wat in 12th century Cambodia undertook a project of breathtaking ambition. They sought to capture an entire constellation in stone, mapping the heavens directly onto the earth. From the ground, the temple is a sublime ascent toward the divine, a series of concentric galleries and soaring towers representing the mythical Mount Meru, home of the gods. But from above, a deeper pattern emerges, one that transforms this sacred geometry into a precise astronomical code. Researcher Elena Manica, after years of meticulous study, proposed a revolutionary idea. She found the temple's dimensions, the lengths of its galleries, and even the numbers of figures in its vast bas-reliefs correspond exactly to the time cycles of Hindu cosmology. These are the yugas, immense epochs spanning hundreds of thousands of years, describing the evolution and dissolution of the universe itself. Angkor Wat was not just a place of worship, it was a physical model of cosmic time. Yet the celestial connection runs even deeper. The arrangement of the temple's 5 central towers, long seen as representing the peaks of Mount Meru, may also mirror a specific pattern in the night sky. Manica and others noted that the tower's layout bears a striking resemblance to the constellation Draco, the dragon, as it would have appeared at the temple's dedication in the year 1150 of the Common Era. Draco is a circumpolar constellation, eternally circling the North Star without ever setting, making it a symbol of permanence and celestial power. In Khmer mythology, the Naga, or serpent deity, is a central figure, often associated with water, fertility, and protection. By mapping the stars of Draco onto their central temple, the Khmer architects may have been creating a terrestrial dragon, a permanent, earthly anchor for that celestial power. This represents a monumental leap in architectural astronomy. It is a shift from aligning a doorway with a sunrise to plotting an entire urban complex as a mirror of the starry vault. The intention was to fuse the kingdom with the eternal, unchangeable order of the cosmos, to make the empire itself a reflection of divine structure. This act of constellation mapping suggests a world view where the boundary between heaven and earth was meant to be dissolved, where walking through the temple was literally walking through a frozen moment of the night sky, a testament to a civilization that saw its destiny written in the stars. The mathematical harmony of Angkor Wat finds an echo in the rational beauty of classical Greece. High atop the Acropolis in Athens, the Parthenon stands as an enduring symbol of democratic ideals and human achievement, its marble columns a testament to a civilization that prized order and reason. Its primary alignment is a celebration of civic and divine identity, oriented so the rising sun would illuminate the great statue of Athena on the goddess's sacred birthday. Yet woven into this perfect geometry is a more subtle celestial thread, one that connects the temple to the rhythms of daily life and the vastness of the night sky. Look closely at the spacing of those iconic columns, the intervals between each vertical drum of marble. Some researchers propose this spacing was not merely aesthetic, but deliberate, designed to create specific sightlines from within the temple's interior. On key dates in the Athenian calendar, as the sun set in the west, the spaces between the columns on the Parthenon's eastern side would have perfectly framed the descent of a tiny, glittering star cluster, the Pleiades. Known to the Greeks as the Seven Sisters, this cluster was far more than a pretty grouping of stars. In their lore, it held immense practical and mythological power. The heliacal rising of the Pleiades in spring signaled the start of the safe sailing season, when merchants and navies could take to the seas after the stormy winter. Its autumnal setting marked the time to plow and sow the fields. This was astronomy in service of survival and commerce, a celestial calendar etched into the cultural consciousness. By designing a temple that could frame this cluster's setting, the architects performed a masterful act of integration. they fused the lofty, sacred space dedicated to the city's patron goddess with the very celestial marker that governed the city's economic and agricultural heartbeat. Here, the rational geometry of the building meets the mystical necessity of the stars. It reflects a worldview where myth was not separate from science, but its narrative counterpart. The story of the seven sisters, daughters of the Titan Atlas, provided a divine explanation for a profoundly practical astronomical event. The Parthenon, in this reading, becomes a bridge between those two realms. It is a monument to Athena's wisdom, certainly, but also a sophisticated instrument that acknowledges humanity's dependence on the cycles of the cosmos. This blend of function and profound symbolism reveals a culture that saw no contradiction between measuring the heavens and telling stories about them, understanding that both were essential to navigating a meaningful existence. This graceful synthesis of the celestial and the civic prepares us for a journey to a very different landscape, where an entire city was laid out not just to observe the stars, but to become a living map of the universe. The mathematical harmony of Greek temples gives way to a different kind of geometry in the highlands of Mexico. The Avenue of the Dead cuts a vast, silent swath through the ruins of Teotihuacan, the city of the gods. This central axis, connecting the Pyramid of the Moon to the Ciudadela complex, presents an immediate puzzle. Unlike so many ancient cities, it is not aligned to the cardinal directions. Instead, it is offset by a precise 15.5 degrees east of north. This was a deliberate choice, a deviation that demands a celestial explanation. The most compelling answer points to a shimmering star cluster known to cultures across Mesoamerica, the Pleiades. Research suggests this grand avenue aligns with the setting point of the Pleiades, as it would have appeared over the Cerro Gordo mountain at the time of the city's zenith. For the people of Teotihuacan, this cluster was not merely a collection of stars, it held profound cosmological weight. Its annual passage directly overhead, the Zenith Passage, was a moment of supreme alignment between heaven and earth, a time when the celestial and terrestrial realms were in perfect communion. It marked a key moment in their ceremonial calendar, tied to the agricultural cycle and the renewal of time itself. By orienting their entire ceremonial core to this cluster's descent, the builders anchored their metropolis to a cosmic clock of immense spiritual importance. But the celestial blueprint may have been even more ambitious. Some researchers, examining the overall layout of Teotihuacan's major structures, see a pattern mirroring another constellation, Cygnus, the Northern Cross. In this theory, the three great pyramids, the Sun, the Moon, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, correspond to the three brightest stars of Cygnus, while the snaking course of the San Juan River mirrors the Milky Way, upon which the constellation appears to rest. Why would a city encode two such different celestial patterns? The answer may lie in a grand architectural ambition, the desire to build not just a city aligned with the sky, but a comprehensive terrestrial map of the heavens. The Pleiades alignment governed a specific, vital annual event, a moment in time. The Cygnus layout, however, represented a permanent, frozen snapshot of the night sky, a sacred geography. Together, they created a duality, a place that both celebrated cyclical time and embodied eternal cosmic structure. Teotihuacan was likely conceived as a sacred replica of the cosmos, a place where the gods walked and where human ritual was essential to maintaining the balance of the universe itself. Every procession down the Avenue of the Dead, every ceremony atop the pyramids, was an act of cosmic maintenance, ensuring the stars continued their courses and the world remained in harmony. This transforms the city from a collection of ruins into a living theological statement, an attempt to build heaven on earth. Simplicity holds a profound wisdom all its own. High in the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, at an elevation where the sky feels close enough to touch, a circle of stones speaks a quiet, enduring language. This is the Bighorn Medicine Wheel, a structure of elegant simplicity built by Plains Indian peoples centuries ago. Unlike the towering pyramids or sprawling temple complexes, this is a place of understated power, a pristine example of what scholars call ethnoastronomy, the study of how cultures understand and use the stars within their own worldview. At its heart is a central cairn, a pile of stones from which 28 spokes radiate outward like the rays of the sun, connecting to a large outer stone circle. Scattered around this wheel are smaller, secondary cairns often called tipi rings. This entire arrangement is not a random scattering, but a deliberate map etched onto the mountaintop. From that central cairn, specific sightlines point to the horizon with remarkable precision. One alignment marks the exact spot where the sun rises on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, a time of peak power and celebration. Another, in the opposite direction, frames the solstice sunset, but the wheel's vision extends beyond the sun. Other carefully placed cairns align with the heliacal rising, that first dawn appearance of 3 brilliant stars: Aldebaran, the red eye of Taurus; Rigel, the bright foot of Orion; and Sirius, the glittering dog star. For the nomadic tribes who used this site, these celestial events were not abstract observations. They were vital signals woven into the rhythm of life. The summer solstice marked a time of communal gathering, ceremony, and renewal. The rising of Aldebaran might have signaled the time to begin the buffalo hunt, while Sirius could have related to ceremonial cycles or storytelling. The medicine wheel is still used today by indigenous peoples for prayer and ceremony, making it a living tradition, a direct thread connecting modern practice to ancient sky knowledge. This continuity is its greatest lesson. It demonstrates that profound astronomical understanding does not require quarried megaliths or grand empires. It requires patient, generations-long observation, a deep intimacy with the landscape, and a robust oral tradition to preserve and pass on the knowledge. Here, on a windswept peak, hunter-gatherer societies encoded a sophisticated celestial calendar using nothing more than stones, memory, and an unwavering attention to the sky above. It is a humble masterpiece, reminding us that the desire to read the cosmos is a human constant, expressed as powerfully in a simple stone circle as it is in the grandest pyramid. Within the dense, whispering rainforest of Palenque, a stone temple holds its breath for 2 precise moments each year. The Temple of the Sun, a masterpiece of Maya architecture, is engineered not just for grandeur, but to capture a singular celestial event, the zenith passage of the sun. For people living between the tropics, the sun does not merely arc across the sky, it climbs to a point directly overhead at noon. On those days, vertical objects cast no shadow at all, a moment of pure, weightless light. The Maya recognized this as a time of immense power when the sun god Kinish Ahau descended fully into the world of men. Deep inside the temple's inner sanctuary, the builders created a silent stone mechanism to mark this event. A carefully positioned shaft, a narrow window or opening in the temple's thick masonry, allows a sliver of sunlight to penetrate the perpetual gloom. But this light does not strike randomly. On the mornings of the 2 annual zenith passages in late April and mid-August, this beam travels across the dark chamber like a golden finger. It finds its target, a magnificent carved stone panel at the temple's heart. The relief depicts a complex scene of Maya cosmology, centered on a representation of the sun god himself. For a brief, brilliant interval, the shaft of zenith light illuminates this central image, as if awakening the deity, charging the stone with the sun's direct overhead power. This was no symbolic gesture, it was precise engineering. The Maya lived with an obsessive attention to solar cycles, their calendar a complex interlocking of sacred and solar years more accurate than any in Europe at the time. They understood their position near the Tropic of Cancer, and they knew exactly when the sun would stand at its apex. By building a temple that responded physically to this knowledge, they transformed architecture into a reliable celestial clock. The event served multiple profound purposes. Agriculturally, the zenith passages bracketed the crucial rainy season, signaling times to plant and harvest. Spiritually, it was a moment of direct communion, a reaffirmation that the cosmic order was functioning correctly, that the sun was on its proper path and the gods were attentive. The fleeting illumination of that central panel was a public, undeniable miracle of stone and light, a demonstration of priestly knowledge and divine favor that reinforced the entire social and cosmic order. In this humid jungle, far from the open deserts, the Maya proved that celestial alignment was not about vast horizons, but about pinpoint accuracy. They built a machine to capture a shadowless moment, turning the abstract path of the sun into a tangible, annual ritual witnessed in the heart of a sacred mountain of stone. Beneath the sands of Abydos, a secret lies in wait. The Temple of Seti I is a masterpiece of New Kingdom art, its walls alive with vibrant reliefs. But descend below its polished floors, and you enter a different world entirely. This is the Osirian, a stark, enigmatic structure of colossal granite blocks that feels impossibly ancient, more akin to the cyclopean masonry of Giza than the graceful temple above. It was built as a cenotaph, a symbolic tomb for the god Osiris, lord of the afterlife and resurrection. Its design is not for the living, but for the journey of the soul, and its language is written in stone, water, and starlight. At the heart of the Osirian is a central island platform, surrounded on all sides by a deep, rectangular channel of water. This is not merely decorative. In Egyptian myth, Osiris was murdered and his body scattered, with key parts lost in the waters of the Nile. The subterranean channel here recreates those primal, life-giving waters, symbolizing both the chaos of death and the potential for rebirth. But the architects aimed higher than mythic geography. They sought to connect this underworld landscape directly to the sky. The entire layout, the orientation of the central platform, and the long axis of the water channel is believed by researchers to align with a very specific celestial axis, the line between the constellation of Orion and the star Sirius. For the Egyptians, this was the most sacred pathway in the heavens. Orion was the celestial Osiris, and Sirius, known as Sopdet, was his divine wife Isis. The heliacal rising of Sirius heralded the Nile flood and the rebirth of the land, mirroring Isis's magical reassembly of Osiris, which led to the birth of their son Horus. By aligning this underground complex to that stellar pair, the builders performed a profound act of cosmic symmetry. The Osirian became a point of convergence where the mythical past, the physical present, and the eternal heavens met. This was alignment with a profound ritual purpose. Scholars suggest that ceremonies held here, perhaps at night, would have used this architecture to enact the soul's perilous journey through the dark waters of the underworld, guided toward its ultimate destination, to merge with the eternal, shining form of Osiris in the stars. The massive, unadorned blocks of the chamber itself may have represented the primordial mound of creation, the first land to rise from the waters, making every ritual within it a reenactment of the birth of the world and the promise of life after death. This site moves us beyond simple horizon observations. It represents a practice of symbolic, three-dimensional alignment, where architecture was not just pointed at the sky, but designed to be a functional, terrestrial duplicate of a celestial and mythical realm. The Osirian was a machine for transformation, built to guide the spirit by mirroring the very structure of the cosmos. A masterpiece of architecture can also be a deliberate act of rebellion against the grid. In the ancient Maya city of Uxmal, the governor's palace stands in majestic isolation, its long, low facade adorned with thousands of intricate stone mosaics. Yet its most striking feature is not its beauty but its orientation. The entire building is rotated, set at a sharp angle that completely disregards the city's orderly north-south alignment. For years, this curious misalignment was a puzzle, an architectural anomaly that seemed to defy logic. The answer, when it came, rewrote our understanding of Maya genius, revealing that the palace was not misaligned with the city at all, but perfectly aligned with the cosmos. The key to this mystery was not the sun, but a wandering star, the planet Venus. Pioneering researcher Anthony Aveni, through meticulous on-site measurements and astronomical calculations, made a stunning discovery. The central doorway of the governor's palace is oriented with pinpoint accuracy toward the southernmost extreme setting point of Venus. Every 8 years, Venus completes a graceful 5-petaled dance in the sky, and its setting point on the horizon migrates north and south. The palace doorway targets the absolute southern limit of this cycle. This was no vague gesture toward the heavens. It was a precise, long-term astronomical record carved in stone. But the architect's ambition went far beyond a doorway. They encoded the planet's rhythm into the very fabric of the building. The length of the palace facade, when measured in the ancient Maya unit of length known as the Hanab, is an exact multiple of the 584-day synodic period of Venus, the time it takes for the planet to return to the same position relative to the Sun and Earth. This transforms the building from a static monument into a dynamic celestial calendar. Every stone, every dimension, was a deliberate choice to embody a cosmic cycle. For the Maya, Venus was not a neutral point of light. It was the celestial embodiment of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, a deity of wind, wisdom, and political authority. Its movements were meticulously tracked, its cycles dictating the timing of warfare, ceremony, and royal succession. By building the seat of governance as a physical model of Venus's journey, the ruler was making an undeniable statement. He was not just a political leader, he was a cosmic intermediary, his authority derived from and synchronized with the divine mechanics of the sky. Walking the length of the palace was, in a symbolic sense, walking through time, tracing the path of a god. This represents a breathtaking leap in architectural astronomy, moving beyond alignment to full embodiment. The governor's palace is not merely pointed at Venus, it is Venus translated into stone and given a place to govern on Earth. It demonstrates a level of integrative thought where mathematics, astronomy, mythology, and statecraft were inseparable strands of a single, sacred reality. The precision of Venusian cycles carved into Maya stone gives way to a different kind of celestial dance, one marked by patient, 18-year rhythms. On the windswept Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides, the Callanish stones rise from the peat like a congregation of ancient giants. Their arrangement is unique, a graceful Celtic cross formed by a central stone circle with long avenues of monoliths stretching to the north, south, east, and west. This haunting, beautiful sight speaks a complex language, one that masterfully blends the cycles of the sun with the far more subtle and prolonged dance of the moon. While the eastern and western rows broadly frame the rising and setting sun around the equinoxes, the true celestial drama is reserved for the main avenue that points uncompromisingly south. This avenue directs the gaze toward a low range of distant mountains on the horizon. Here, the moon performs its most dramatic act, not every month or even every year, but once every 18.6 years, the moon reaches its southernmost major standstill. On those rare nights as it rises, it does not climb cleanly into the sky. Instead, it appears to roll along the silhouette of those far-off peaks, seeming to skirt their slopes for hours before finally lifting away. This is not a fleeting alignment, but a prolonged, theatrical celestial event. To witness it, you must understand, required generations of meticulous observation. Someone had to notice the moon's slow migration along the horizon over a lifetime, recognize the 18-year pattern, and then command the labor to permanently mark that extreme point with tons of stone. The ritual significance of this event would have been immense. In a landscape where the moon governs the powerful tides of the Atlantic, this major standstill represented a peak of lunar influence, a time of maximum celestial power. Community gatherings timed to this rare event would have been momentous, reinforcing social bonds and shared cosmology across generations. The genius of Kallanish lies in its integration. The solar equinox alignments provided a reliable, annual calendar for planting and ceremony, the short cycle that ordered daily life. The lunar standstill alignment provided a long cycle, a grand, generational rhythm for more profound communal rites, perhaps initiations or leadership successions. Together, they created a holistic timekeeping system, a stone computer that synchronized human society with both the quick pulse of the sun and the slow, deep heartbeat of the moon. This site stands as a testament to a different kind of astronomical sophistication, one of patient, long-term observation and a desire to weave every celestial rhythm, fast and slow, into the sacred fabric of life. The stones of Baalbek hold a weight beyond measure. In Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, the ruins of the Roman Temple of Jupiter stand as a testament to imperial ambition, its soaring Corinthian columns dwarfing visitors even in their fallen state. Yet beneath this Roman grandeur lies a far older and far more mysterious foundation. The platform upon which the temple sits is built from the largest known quarried stones in human history, the trilithon, 3 blocks each estimated to weigh over 800 tons. Their origin and purpose predate the Romans by millennia, pointing to a sanctuary of unimaginable antiquity with its gaze fixed on a specific point in the night sky. The orientation of this original complex, scholars suggest, was not to the Roman gods, but to a constellation revered across the ancient Near East, Taurus the Bull. Astronomical analysis indicates that around 9,000 years before the Common Era, the entire site's primary axis would have aligned with the heliacal rising of Aldebaran, the fiery red star marking the eye of the celestial bull. This was an epoch when hunter-gatherer societies were first transitioning to settled life, and the bull held profound symbolic power, representing strength, fertility, and the raw forces of nature. The immense scale of the foundational stones suggests a society with not only advanced engineering but a driving, communal purpose of cosmic significance. They may have been building an anchor to the heavens, a permanent home for the celestial bull on Earth. This theory transforms Baalbek from a Roman relic into a palimpsest of sacred geography. The Romans, and later the Byzantines and Arabs, built their own temples and mosques upon this spot, each drawn to its inherent power, perhaps sensing its sacred axis without fully understanding its original celestial blueprint. They were building upon a holy site whose meaning was encoded not in their own myths, but in the slow drift of the stars over thousands of years. Baalbek introduces a compelling layer to our mystery, the idea of alignments that persist like a whisper through time. A sacred axis once established in deep antiquity can resonate across civilizations, with each new culture inheriting a powerful location and reinterpreting its meaning, all the while maintaining an unconscious fidelity to an ancient star. The land itself can coil into a question. In the rolling hills of southern Ohio, the Great Serpent Mound stretches for over a quarter-mile, an earthwork of breathtaking scale and mystery. Built by the fort ancient culture roughly 1,000 years ago, this is not a structure of piled stone, but of sculpted earth, a colossal serpent forever frozen in the act of swallowing a large, oval mound. From the ground, its form is subtle, but from above, the design reveals a profound intentionality. The serpent's head is aligned precisely to the point of the summer solstice sunset, while the curves of its body may align to the solstice sunrise and the equinox sunrises, turning the entire effigy into a sophisticated solar calendar. Yet the most compelling theory suggests its gaze is fixed not just on the sun, but on a far more ancient star pattern. Some researchers, including astronomer William Romaine, have proposed that the Serpent's 7 major coils correspond with the 7 primary curves of the constellation Draco, the dragon, as it would have circled the north celestial pole around 3,000 years before the Common Era. If this connection holds, it implies something extraordinary: the preservation of precise astronomical knowledge across thousands of years, carried not in written texts, but through an unbroken chain of oral tradition and ritual practice. This would mean the fort ancient builders were not creating a new design, but giving permanent, earthly form to a celestial story remembered from a time before their own. The Serpent Mound represents alignment as monumental art. Here, astronomy is not expressed through doorways or shafts, but through the very contour of the landscape. The builders moved thousands of tons of soil to sculpt a mythic creature that also functioned as a cosmic map, blending artistic expression, spiritual reverence, and celestial observation into a single, unified earthwork. It stands as a powerful reminder that for ancient cultures, the sky was not just a source of light and time, but a gallery of sacred shapes, stories waiting to be walked upon. The lunar calendar was not an abstract system, but the very pulse of Sumerian life. In the fertile crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the great ziggurat of Ur rose like a man-made mountain, its baked mud brick core a colossal stairway to heaven. This was the home of Nana, the moon god, and its architecture spoke a language of lunar devotion. 3 massive staircases converged at the temple's summit, and one, scholars believe, was precisely oriented. It likely pointed toward the moon's most northerly rising point on the horizon, marking the extreme of its monthly journey. For the Sumerians and later the Babylonians, the moon was not merely a night light. It was the supreme timekeeper. Their entire calendar was based on its phases, with months beginning at the first sighting of the crescent. This lunar rhythm dictated the timing of religious festivals, agricultural activities, and legal contracts. By aligning the ziggurat staircase to the moon's northern standstill, the priests and architects created a permanent, physical connection between the seat of divine and earthly power and the celestial body that governed their entire society. At the summit, the temple was both a spiritual dwelling and an administrative center, where the priesthood managed vast storehouses and trade. The cyclical, silvery light of Nana thus illuminated not just the night sky, but the very ledgers of commerce and the cycles of harvest. This lunar-centric focus presents a striking contrast to the solar obsessions of Egypt or the Maya. It shows how a civilization's primary deity could fundamentally dictate its astronomical focus, weaving celestial observation directly into the fabric of urban planning, economic stability, and daily ritual. The ziggurat was more than a temple. It was a lunar clock tower for a civilization that told time by the soft glow of the night. While El Castillo's serpent descended for the sun, another structure at Chichen Itza kept watch over a far more erratic celestial wanderer. The caracol, named the snail for its interior spiral staircase, is an architectural anomaly, a round, tiered tower rising from a rectangular platform in a city of right angles. This was no temple for public ceremony, but a sophisticated observatory, its design honed for a single, obsessive purpose: tracking the complex cycles of the planet Venus. Its walls are pierced by narrow, slit-like windows, not for letting in light or air, but for creating precise sightlines to the horizon. These slits are not randomly placed. Research by astronomers like Anthony Aveni and his colleagues revealed that specific windows frame the northernmost and southernmost setting points of Venus on the horizon, the extremes of its 8-year dance. Another slit aligns with the equinox sunset, providing a solar reference point to calibrate the entire celestial calendar. To stand inside the upper chamber and peer through one of these slits is to look through a gun sight aimed at the cosmos, a tool of breathtaking precision built 1,000 years ago. For the Maya, Venus was not a benign light. They called it No-Ek, the great star, but it was also the celestial embodiment of Kukulkan in his more fearsome aspect, a harbinger of conflict and change. Its movements were calculated with extraordinary accuracy in the Dresden Codex, a Maya book of astronomy. The heliacal rising of Venus after a period of invisibility was particularly potent, a time believed to portend the downfall of rulers and the outbreak of war. Military campaigns, royal successions, and major ceremonies were scheduled in accordance with Venus' position, turning astronomical prediction into a tool of statecraft and survival. The caracol represents a monumental shift in intent. This is not a pyramid aligning with a solstice to inspire public awe, but a dedicated scientific instrument, a laboratory in stone. Its unusual circular shape minimized structural interference with sightlines, and its tiered design allowed observers to use different windows for different cycles. Here, the Maya moved from generalized celestial reverence to specialized, meticulous observation. They were not just worshipping the star, they were dissecting its orbit, quantifying its behavior to navigate the uncertainties of a world they believed was governed by celestial mechanics. The building itself is a testament to a culture that saw no division between the spiritual and the scientific, where understanding a planet's path was both a sacred duty and a pragmatic necessity for maintaining order in a fragile world. The tomb of a king became a machine for capturing the last light of the dying year. Deep within the temple of the inscriptions at Palenque, the great Maya ruler Janub Pakal was laid to rest, his journey into the afterlife marked by one of the most elaborate tombs ever discovered in the Americas. While the intricate carvings on his massive sarcophagus lid have sparked endless speculation, the pyramid built to house him holds a quieter, more profound secret in its very architecture. This was not merely a monument to a powerful individual. It was a carefully engineered device designed to synchronize his eternal legacy with the most pivotal moment in the solar calendar, the winter solstice. Researchers studying the temple's precise orientation have noted a remarkable alignment. On the evening of the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the setting sun does not simply vanish behind the jungle canopy. From a specific vantage point, its fading rays align perfectly with the temple's central crest, the ornate roof cone that crowns the structure. This alignment is the key to a potential celestial phenomenon. As the sun sinks, its light is channeled by the architecture, possibly passing through openings or between specific architectural elements of the temple facade. Some scholars propose that this engineered path of light could have allowed the solstice sunset to penetrate deep into the temple's interior, perhaps even reaching the upper levels of the stairway that descends to Pakal's burial chamber far below. The symbolic resonance of this alignment is profound. For the Maya, the winter solstice represented a moment of deep cosmic tension, the sun at its weakest point, poised between descent and renewal. It was a time associated with the underworld, a realm known as Xibalba. By aligning his tomb with the solstice sunset, Pakal's architects created a permanent link between the king's passing and this critical solar event. His descent into the afterlife was mirrored by the sun's descent into its lowest point, a shared journey into darkness that promised a shared return. The light touching his temple on that specific evening would have been seen not as an ending, but as a reaffirmation, a celestial guarantee that just as the sun would inevitably climb back toward the summer, the king's spirit was eternally woven into that cycle of rebirth. This represents the ultimate fusion of personal legacy and cosmic order. Pakal was not just a ruler buried in a pyramid. He was a ruler whose eternal home was actively engaged in the mechanics of the heavens. The alignment served a powerful political purpose, visually demonstrating that the king's authority did not end with his death, but was instead ratified by the cosmos itself. It provided a divine justification for his dynasty's continued rule, suggesting that their right to govern flowed from this unbreakable bond with the solar cycle. Every winter solstice thereafter became a public memorial, a day when the sun itself paid homage to the entombed king, reminding the people of Palenque that their former leader was now a permanent fixture in the celestial landscape, a guardian of the sun's eternal return. In this way, a single sunset, captured once a year by a clever arrangement of stone, transformed a mortal king into a permanent actor in the story of the sky. Sometimes the most elegant calendar requires no construction at all. In the high desert of Choco Canyon, a lone sandstone butte rises from the canyon floor, its face adorned with ancient spirals carved into the rock. For centuries, these petroglyphs were seen as beautiful but mysterious art. Then, in the late 1970s, a researcher named Anna Sofer made a stunning discovery. The spirals were not the whole story, they were the target. 3 massive, wedge-shaped stone slabs had fallen from the cliff above and come to rest directly in front of the rock art. These were not placed by human hands, but their natural position was recognized and utilized with breathtaking genius. The slabs act as a sophisticated aperture, a natural camera obscura carved by time and chance. On the morning of the summer solstice, as the sun climbs, a dagger-thin shaft of sunlight pierces the narrow gap between 2 of the slabs. This beam of light, sharp and clear, travels downward until it strikes the center of the largest spiral petroglyph. For several minutes, the sun dagger perfectly bisects the carved circle, a needle of light pinning the center of the stone coil. It is a moment of perfect alignment, an ephemeral stitch connecting the heavens to the rock face. But the calendar does not stop there. On the winter solstice, the sun's lower path creates 2 distinct daggers of light. These twin beams appear, not piercing, but framing the same large spiral, one on either side, as if holding the symbol in a bracket of illumination. And on the spring and autumn equinoxes, a single dagger of light touches a smaller, adjacent spiral, marking the balance of day and night with a delicate, pointed caress. This is astronomy of the most elegant and minimalist kind. The ancestral Puebloan people who used this site did not quarry stones or raise monuments, they observed. They saw how the accidental architecture of fallen boulders could interact with the sun's journey, and they marked the perfect spot on the cliff with their spirals, transforming a natural formation into a precise, dynamic solar instrument. The Fajota Butte sun dagger required no moving parts, no maintenance, and no elaborate construction. It required only profound patience, a deep understanding of solar geometry, and the wisdom to see a calendar already written in shadow and light upon the landscape. It stands as a powerful testament to a different kind of technological sophistication, one that works in harmony with the environment rather than imposing upon it, using the Earth itself as the ultimate clock face. The final structure on our list lies not on a wind-swept plain or a jungle mountaintop, but beneath the waves. Off the remote coast of Japan, the island of Yonaguni is guarded by a submerged enigma. Below the surface, massive sandstone formations rise in a series of startlingly geometric terraces, sharp angles, and what appear to be carved steps and channels. Since their discovery, the Yonaguni Monument has stood at the controversial frontier of our mystery, a place where the clear lines between natural geology and human artistry begin to blur. For some researchers, these are the unmistakable ruins of a lost civilization, a complex submerged when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age. Their most compelling argument often points not just to the shapes but to their orientation. Proponents of the artificial origin theory note that the primary faces of the largest structure align with the cardinal directions. More specifically, they suggest that certain features, like a prominent triangular depression or a long, straight channel, may have been positioned to frame the sunrise on the solstices or the rising of significant stars as they would have appeared thousands of years ago when this platform was allegedly above water. If true, this would place Yonaguni within the same ancient tradition we have seen worldwide, a sacred site engineered to capture celestial events. The scientific consensus, however, remains cautious, attributing the formations to natural sandstone fracturing and erosion by strong ocean currents. This collision of interpretations is precisely what makes Yonaguni so important as our final example. It forces us to confront the very limits of our historical knowledge. It asks us how we define evidence and what we are willing to consider when patterns emerge from the deep. Whether a masterpiece of natural forces or a drowned monument, Yonaguni serves as a powerful metaphor. It reminds us that our exploration of humanity's celestial past is not a closed book. The ocean, much like the cosmos above, holds vast, unexplored realms that may yet contain undiscovered chapters of our story. This submerged puzzle pushes the edges of the mystery, suggesting that the map of our ancient, star-aligned world may still be incomplete, waiting for the next discovery to surface from the depths. From the sands of Egypt to the mountains of Peru, we have walked a world where stone and star are in constant, whispering dialogue. These 25 structures are not random ruins, but deliberate and sophisticated expressions of a universal human impulse, a deep need to find order, meaning, and connection in the vastness of the cosmos. They stand as a chorus of monuments, each built in isolation, yet all singing a similar song to the heavens. This shared chorus challenges the simple, linear story of human progress. It suggests that profound astronomical knowledge, a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, appeared again and again in the deep past among cultures with no possible contact. The evidence is carved into granite, etched into earth, and aligned with breathtaking precision. Whether driven by the practical need for survival, the spiritual longing for worship, the political desire for power, or simply a sense of pure wonder, our ancestors everywhere performed the same profound act. They looked up and then they built down, translating the silent movements of the sky into a permanent, terrestrial language. They created a legacy in stone that still speaks to us, that still captivates and mystifies us today. As the final alignment fades from our view, we are left with a quiet, profound question. In our modern world, beneath the glare of artificial light and the rush of digital noise, what essential piece of that celestial connection have we lost? When was the last time the stars truly dictated the rhythm of your days, or a sunrise marked not just a new morning, but a new chapter in a cosmic story? We would love to hear your thoughts. Which of these ancient alignments amazed you the most? Share in the comments below. And if you have been captivated by this journey through time and sky, subscribe to continue unraveling history's greatest mysteries with us.